Hello, everyone, and welcome back to NCOIL One-on-One. With us here today is Wes Bissett, Senior Counsel for the Big I. Wes, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Pat. Great to be with you.
So let's hop right in. Can you tell us how you kind of first got your start working in public policy?
Yeah. So when I was young, I always loved history and civics classes and just anything politics related. And so when I went to college, even though I thought originally I'd major in something like economics or engineering, I ended up doing a double major in history and politics. And once I got out of college, even though I didn't have a job lined up, I moved to DC. Fell into an internship and a low-paying job later with Empower America, which is a think tank that was formed by Jack Kemp, Bill Bennett, and Gene Kirkpatrick. So it's a great place to work. I was working with some of the other young staffers back then were people like Paul Ryan, who became Speaker of the House. So it was a great place to be. And so I was there for a while and then took a job with a Maryland state delegate who was running for Congress in the district where I was from. So I went to work for him before we even had a campaign office, and we're working out of his condo. And then he was elected and became a member of the House Financial Services Committee. So I went to work for him, and that gave me exposure to Capitol Hill, but also to insurance and financial services related issues, and the rest is history.
That's great. I was a politics major myself, so good man.
Yeah.
So then how did that kind of translate into you first kind of coming to discover NCOIL, and what's the Big I's participation been like over the years?
Yeah. So gosh, I mean, I left Capitol Hill in the mid to late '90s and went to work for the Big I. And what I do for the Big I now is I essentially oversee the state government affairs operation from a national association perspective. We have the Big I's got state associations. Every state in the country is the biggest insurance association in the country. So I work, we have people in every state capital and they do the heavy day-to-day lifting, but I work with them closely, coordinate with them, provide them with substantive guidance, political assistance, you name it. I obviously represent the Big I with NCOIL and with other organizations like the NEIC. We also have a Capitol Hill office, so I work closely with our Cap Hill team on issues when they arise and when necessary. But most of my focus is on state legislative and regulatory issues.
Definitely sounds like a full plate. So what are some of your top policy priorities generally over the next year, and then as it kind of relates to NCOIL's corner of the world as well?
Yeah. Great question. The big issues for us right now relate to the hard market, right? So we find ourselves with market conditions that the members that I represent haven't seen in their entire career. So we're working on a wide range of things to try to reduce or remove unnecessary costs from the insurance system. So one of the big priorities for us this year is going to be addressing lawsuit abuse, abuse of the legal system. So, in that regard, we've been very pleased that NCOIL is pursuing model legislation that addresses third-party litigation financing and some of the problems that are inherent with that. A number of states have already acted on that issue, and hopefully a strong NCOIL model adopted in November will even increase the number of states that are looking at that. We're also looking at things like anti-fraud efforts, trying to eliminate or address or penalize fraud where it exists in the system. NCOIL adopted a great storm chaser model law several years ago. And the issues addressed there are even more timely with all the storms that we've seen recently. I think the organization's now working on a glass shop related fraud bill. So we appreciate the good work that NCOIL is doing in that area. I guess related to that, we're focused on some of the abuses associated with public adjusters. NCOIL also adopted a great model there, I think a year ago, that even encouraged the NEIC to look at those issues. And so we're going to be working on some public adjuster things in next year and the years to come. Also trying to find ways to encourage consumers to mitigate and reduce the risk that they present. NCOIL is also working on this issue. There's been an effort in some states over the last decade to create grant mitigation programs that allow homeowners to, for example, replace their roofs with more resilient roofs. So the NCOIL effort in that regard has been welcome to us, and I think with some revisions, the proposal NCOIL is working on will be a really good one. And then finally, I guess I'd say, some of the issues that have come up in this hard market relate to and have highlighted the lack of consumer transparency. Our members see a lot of non-renewals in this environment, or big spikes in premiums at renewal time, and consumers, in some cases understand what's happening in the marketplace, but some of these rate increases just come out of left field with no explanation. And so we were pleased that NCOIL adopted a transparency model last year that sort of pulls back the veil a little bit when rate increases are really large. And I think the association seems like it's on its way to address the manner in which companies are using aerial images today, which is increasingly a topic of discussion and conversation. So we welcome that effort as well. So many of the things that we're focused on are either issues that NCOIL has tackled or is in the midst of tackling right now.
That's great. So yeah, you mentioned some of the issues that we'll be working on at our upcoming meetings. How would you describe your overall experience participating in NCOIL throughout the years?
Wow. I mean, it's been great. It's been about 25 years, since I first, no, I don't want to carbon date myself, but it's been about 25 years since I've been coming to NCOIL. I mean, the experience has always been, I guess, very productive and positive. NCOIL's tackled a lot of complex and complicated and difficult issues over the years, and it has really been an extremely positive force when it comes to policymaking in the insurance realm.
That's great. So yeah, in addition to regular meeting attendance, you're also a very active member of our corporate and institutional partners program. How would you describe your experience working in that kind of realm?
Yeah, I like it actually. It's been very positive, that experience as well. Sometimes I guess one thing really stands out for me in particular. The three main business meetings that NCOIL has, there's always a tremendous lot of activity going on, right? You've got the formal meetings, you're trying to, you have those impromptu meetings and so forth in the hall, and that's always great. But it's like a good party where afterwards you're like, so-and-so was there, but I never got to connect with them. And some of the CIP meetings are a little bit, it allows for kind of conversation in a more, quieter setting, slower pace setting. So, I find that I get a lot out of the CIP meetings that occur outside of the business meetings, because you can have thoughtful and more meaningful conversations. Sometimes with the three big meetings you have per year, I find myself sort of putting the urgent sometimes before the important, and those other sessions that you have allow for dialogue and conversation and meeting new people in ways that don't always lend itself to the three big ones.
Great. So I know we mentioned we wouldn't be carbon dating, but as a very active NCOIL attendee throughout the years, do you have any advice for new attendees kind of coming in, getting involved?
Wow. God, I mean, if anyone who's interested in the intersection of insurance, the insurance industry and public policy, it's like a no-brainer to be engaged in NCOIL, right? So that, if you're in our industry and you're not going to NCOIL, you probably need to think twice. I think it's a great place because there's, increasingly the number of attendees has increased, the number of states that are participating has increased. I would urge people to do what my friend Tim Tucker, who used to work at NCOIL, says, and worked with me for a while at the Big I. His goal is to try to meet 3 new people at every meeting. And if you have that mindset, it's a way to increase your network and effectiveness. I don't always follow that advice, but I try to have that mindset when I go to meetings. NCOIL is great because everybody's in one place at one time. So whether you're trying to meet certain legislators or connect with industry colleagues or perhaps catch up with some commissioners, it's like everybody is in the same place for a few days. And it's just it's a great way to catch up and get business done if you're in this industry.
That's great. So yeah, at NCOIL, obviously our goal is to bring state legislators together in the same room and develop model laws that they can take back to their states. I know you mentioned you oversee all state policy for the Big I. Have you seen NCOIL's efforts kind of disseminate out into the states?
Oh, 100%. I mean, you said it, right? It's the model laws that NCOIL has developed over the year have been very instrumental. I mentioned before, they've tackled some very challenging issues. I'm sometimes struck, this happens sometimes where someone will reach out to me and they say, I've got this new idea. I want to do this on a certain issue. And I'm like, pump your brakes. There's already an NCOIL model that's been developed and vetted. You don't have to worry about it. So having those NCOIL models is incredibly important and helpful. I think It does a couple of things. With the models that NCOIL works on, it promotes good public policy. So, good idea comes from a particular legislator, models developed, and then it can be spread out to other states who maybe didn't even ever think or contemplate the idea. And then they also promote, obviously, interstate consistency. It could be a good idea, but if states are addressing that particular concept in 50 different ways, then there's problems associated with that. And so having sort of thought through, vetted language on issues that are important, it's so important to have that, especially in a state regulated industry like ours.
Nice. So naturally, we've discussed some of the positive things about NCOIL, but of course, there's always ways we can improve. Are there any ways you'd like to see the organization grow and change over the years to come?
Well, Pat, in the notes you sent me, you mentioned that I was supposed to talk about a raise for you. So that would be one thing
Thought we were keeping that one between us.
Okay. Hopefully no one will. All right, strike that. Forget that. I guess the one thing I would say is, this is in the idea of kind of perfecting what you already have in place. I think, we've seen NCOIL expand, more states coming on board. So continuing those efforts, I think would be incredibly helpful. The other thing I'd say is, how can, and I don't have any ideas or I have any specific suggestions for you on this, but, there's so many good proposals that NCOIL has put together in terms of models. And I know this doesn't happen, but, going from that gap between when a model's adopted and trying to encourage as many states to implement it as possible. So there's so much good work going on at NCOIL. Is there, I kind of raised this as an open question. Is there more that can be done to promote that work to states, to highlight and showcase the models that you've developed for legislators who may want to pick those up and adopt them in their own jurisdictions?
All good suggestions. So before we let you go, we have a quick lightning round of questions. Help the audience get to know you a little bit better. These are the real hard-hitting ones.
Yeah.
Can you tell us your favorite all-time movie?
Wow. So I'm a Scorsese and Tarantino fan, but actually I'm going to go with Michael Mann, the movie Heat. I love Heat.
Great choice. Favorite all-time actor?
I'm going to say Morgan Freeman. The guy he's so diverse and can do anything.
Nice. Favorite all-time food?
Steamed crabs. I'm from Baltimore, so gotta say that.
Book or author?
I'm into nonfiction, so I will say Eric Larson, who does a lot of stuff that I like.
Song or musical artist?
Fugazi from DC.
TV show?
Wow, from Baltimore, people would expect maybe The Wire or Homicide, but I'm going to go with Taxi. Go with a comedy.
And last one, 3 dinner party guests, living or dead?
Ooh. All right. So Pat, I'm not going to include you. You got to figure out something on your own for this meal. But I'm going to go with Winston Churchill, Ben Franklin, the original American. And in case conversation gets too heavy, let's have Dave Chappelle be there too.
There you go.
So
it'll be a good one. All right, this wraps up this month's NCOIL one-on-one interview with Wes Bissett of the Big I. Wes, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate it.
Thank you.